Johnson just passing it out to his right, tries to find Lewis Grabban. Lewis Grabban has the shot, he scores! What a fantastic goal! Lewis Grabban.
Hello everybody, and welcome to an interview that I've wanted to bring you all for a very long time. We've managed to get the interview after a couple of technical gremlins, which I know that everybody has seen over the last week or so on my YouTube channel, so I do apologise for that. Talk, we'll be getting a phone call in the morning, but without further ado, Michael Dawson, welcome to the interview. Welcome to the channel. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Jamie, and thank you for having me on. And glad to be able to help you out. Met you the other night at the Forest Villa game, and reminiscing about your younger days and watching me as a player. You know, I was talking about the Shipston shirt in '92. You said you struggled to get hold of that kit, but you've got one that I was rocking back in 2002, 3, 4, somewhere around that time, a long time ago.
Yeah, it's a wicked shirt, by the way. So I just want to give a big shout out to Leo. I think his name's Phil actually that gave me this shirt. So thank you, Phil, for this. If you're listening, now
Jay, it fits you. Jay, it fits you a lot more than it fit me when I played. It used to be baggy shirts. It's all fitted now. They all look so smart. Completely different to the early 2000s. That's for sure.
But that's the fashion now, isn't it? You know, like all the baggy clothing and all that. I thought it was absolutely awesome. I thought the 2000s, late 90s had some brilliant kits.
Yeah, great shirts. And like we said, I remember the little bats. I I was in the club shop to start before the season started, getting my little boy a kit, and there was the yellow Labatt's one which I had that looked like I had paint all over it. I had that as a young Forest fan. So the old shirts are great, and I was speaking to my wife. She said, "I bet you wish you'd kept them now, don't you?" And I certainly keep all Louis, all his old shirts now.
Well, you've got to, haven't you? It's just that is history, and you'll always look back and look at a shirt, and you'll think of a memory that comes up. And you know, I mean, for sure that when I look at lots of my old Forest shirts, some of them I don't have them anymore because they don't fit me anymore. But when I was younger, I was a centre back throughout most of my footballing, like just starting to play football. And you were someone that I used to love watching. It was you, Nemanja Vidic at the time, because I went to watch United in 2010 and I got to see him play, which was awesome. And then a couple of other guys as well. I've just liked really like kind of, I don't know, I've just liked kind of random players. Obviously you had that connection with Forest, and obviously I saw you playing for Spurs and Hull as well for a bit. And then there was also players like Billy Sharp, who I kind of liked, and then Ricky Lambert, just players that just kind of caught my eyes when I was a kid. But obviously, to be able to get the chance to talk to you is absolutely brilliant. And I kind of want to talk to you about your footballing career, which was, I think, for around 20 years. It was around 2001, I think you started, and then retired in 2021. So it's a long time to play football. And I kind of want to know, obviously, before I get on to, a bit more about your actual footballing career, how you kind of got into football and kind of the moment when you thought, actually, I could go professional.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's where every kid and every professional footballer dream starts. Grassroots, playing for your local team. I had two older brothers having to kick around in the garden. Never thinking it's going to happen. Just the love of the game, playing on a Sunday morning, training Saturday, all these kind of things, playing at school, just fun. That's how it starts. Yeah. So just playing in the park. You never ever dream that you're going to be a footballer at that. You never even gives you a thought of where it might take you. And then probably from the age of 5, 6, 7, 8, I was playing. My oldest brother Andy, obviously, who played and started the dream of being a professional footballer, started at Forest. And that's probably where the connection with Nottingham Forest came. Nottingham Forest wanted to sign Andy at the age of 14. He was 5 years above me. We met the legend that he was, Sir Brian Clough. Incredible manager, incredible human being, what he did for Nottingham Forest and a footballing man. And we got to meet him, that famous green jumper. We had the Shipstone shirts on, as we say. And from that day, I was a Nottingham Forest fan from the age of 8 and 9 and followed them, watched them in Europe and things like that. But going back to my playing days, it was just the fact of going down to Nottingham. Andy was signed at 14 and I was going down school holidays because I was still only 9 or 10. And believe it or not, I was actually a centre forward and scored a lot of goals.
Wow, no way.
I've surprised you there, haven't I? Yeah.
Wow.
So it was a family connection, and that's why Nottingham, not just for me, but the whole family, is a big part of our life from such a young age. And I remember going to Kiel and then ended up playing centre half because there were so many centre forwards, and I never played centre forward again. So it was either meant I was good at centre half, I was bad at centre forward. I'll leave that to everyone else's to make their minds up. But just from that age, and even then when you're going down, and I was at 14, I signed schoolboy forms, and that's when it becomes a real dedication. From the younger age, you're just going out and playing on a Saturday, and then I'd finish and go and play with my mates in the park and things like that. But from 13, 14, that's when it came, the dedication of going down every single weekend, getting on a train from Yorkshire, which was hard. My dad would take me to the train station. I'd always get the 5:35 train down. I can remember it from Darlington. I'd have to change at Derby, which was never really good on a Saturday when they'd been at home, and I had my Forest tracksuit on if I was going home on a Saturday afternoon. But we tend to go home on a Sunday, so it wasn't too bad. We'd get down 8:30, train Saturday morning, play on a Sunday, train back. So that was hard in the 2 years, and trying to do your school. In every school holiday, I'd be down in Nottingham, so away from your friends, and the dedication that you have to show and commitment. I loved it. It's all I wanted to do. If I wasn't playing football at Forest, I'd be playing in the park with my mates. I'd just be having to kick around on the streets against the garages, causing chaos for the neighbours and people like that. And then from the age of 16, that was it. I always wanted to be like my older brother. I always wanted to be like Andy and Kev. And Kev followed in Andy's footsteps, leaving home at 16. And I was the last of obviously the three brothers to do the same, finish your GCSEs. The car down to Nottingham, living in the digs in West Bridgford. And, that's probably when I kicked on, really. That's when my career went from probably being a little bit fortunate to get a YTS. I left home, no school, no travelling. It was just focus. It was football. And within 2 or 3 months, I was in the under-19s, and 18 months later, I made my debut in the first team. So it was a dream come true. But from a young age, I see it to kids now, because football is everyone's life. We all dream, parents dream. I think that's the biggest factor of people now. We see the money that's in the game and every parent hopes their kid can be the next Harry Kane, the next Brennan Johnson, the dreams of coming through the ranks, and that's how it is. But it's not easy. You need an awful lot of dedication. You need a lot of luck, and your face needs a fit. But you need desire and commitment and sacrifices to get to the top, or even make it in any form of football. But it's not easy. But I would never have swapped anything, any bit of my career, from the pressures, the injuries, to the disappointment, the failure. I would never have swapped it now. 20 odd years on from the day I walked into the digs in West Bridgford.
I mean, I was just going to say, because I want to touch on a word you said, sacrifices, because I think, I don't think anybody really believes that football is just easy to get into. Professional football, obviously, you can go and play for any Saturday league team or do whatever you want, wherever. But when it comes to professional football, everybody knows the sacrifice you're going to make. And unfortunately, for a lot of kids now, they don't get into professional football, and they still do make that sacrifice, So what kind of advice would you have for kids that have kind of had that kind of heartbreak?
Well, I had a handful of players that come through the ranks at Nottingham Forest, went through the same journey as me, left home, sacrificed everything, and didn't make it. I've still got friends that didn't go on to unfortunately have a career at any level, whether it be Premier League down to the National League, so it's tough. There's a small minority who make it. So my middle brother Kev, I've seen the highs and the lows, and then the work that's gone into to try and be a footballer. It's taken away from you, or you don't quite make it, or it's someone else's opinion that doesn't fancy you. So you have to deal with that mental side and disappointment, and then I suppose failure. But it shouldn't be classed as a failure, because you've probably got a lot further than what a lot of other kids wanted to. But that pride and disappointment that you haven't become a professional footballer will stay with people. Kev, with Andy being my oldest brother and Kev being the middle, he sees two of his older brothers make professionally, and he went out the game at 23, played for Forest, then went to Chesterfield, and unfortunately went out the game at 23. So I've said it's a hard industry to be in. You have to be mentally strong, and You know, you have to have that commitment. You've got to love it more than anything you can love in your life, because it takes over. And you know, and that's all I ever dreamed of being. And thankfully for me, my dream came true. But for 99% of players, it doesn't. And I think it's getting even harder. You look at certainly get to the Premier League, because the money that's come to the Premier League. So now we can go to overseas, we go foreign, we go different leagues to try and bring them to the Premier League, because we've got so much money. I mean, you look at the turnover at Forest at this moment in time, the players that helped get Forest back to the Premier League, handful still really in the team. You look at Brennan, you look at Jar you look at Yatesy. Sam Surridge is obviously involved. I probably missed one or two there, but there's not an awful lot of players. So the turnover, because that comes with finances, that you can go out and maybe think that we can improve. And that's at every football club. So it's hard. But for me personally, I would not change a single thing. I shared dressing rooms with great players. As a young 18-year-old, I had great senior pros in Nottingham Forest. Des, I probably couldn't learn from a better fellow centre-half who'd been to England, been around Europe and played in different countries and helped me along the way. And you're seeing your players that an 18-year-old probably look up to. You had Jono scoring goals in the Championship. We had Ricky Skimmicker in the middle of the park. We had Darren Ward. We had a few jokers in Jimmy Brennan, Matty Lewijon, the middle classes, the middle-aged players, as you would say, the characters. And then we had the older heads that are the dads, as you would say. The more quieter ones that guide the young group of players that we were. And Paul Hart had developed and guided through the academy and then give us a chance in the first team. So we were very fortunate to have Paul that give us. But he was harder on us than he was probably the senior players. That's just how it was. So that was something we had to deal with. But like I say, a lot of us got the opportunity to play in the first team. And I always say now, one of the hardest things is getting to a first team. It's even harder to stay there. You look how many players have gone on to make a debut and then talked about for 1-2 years and then gradually drift away or go down the league. So it's hard when you get to the top or near the top is to stay there. But every player, it's dedication. It's sacrifices you have to make to be a professional footballer in any league. National League, people travel away from the families, all these things. But it's something that, look, Jay, you're a fan, you love it as much as anyone else. Anyone would give the right arm to do what we did.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd give my right arm to be in the Saturday League first team at the moment, but that's how it is. I love it, really. But you know, it's I think, you know, when it comes to football now as well, and obviously when you were playing as well, the social media age was kind of starting to take off a little bit. You know, and it really did gain momentum, and it does play a part in how a player plays on the pitch. I mean, you know, I think we've seen with some Forest performances recently, a lot of the confidence that they've had has been shattered, not just by games that haven't gone particularly brilliantly, but you know, there's people on social media that have attacked players and they've done all kinds of things, and that must really hurt. So, you know, obviously you were kind of coming up and kind of towards maybe the end of your career when it was like social media was really, really prominent. Did it have a big effect on you, social media?
Look, I'm not a big fan of social media. I really aren't. I can understand why people have it at the end. Work, businesses, but as a player, I just don't know how it can help you. I honestly do not. You know, I've talked about the pressures of being a professional footballer. Every fan thinks their club is the biggest club in the world, and rightly so. That's why you support them. And when you're living in a city, whatever it would be, Forest, London, wherever you go, it's like a goldfish bowl. You can't move, and when you're playing well, it's great. But when you're having a dip, you become under scrutiny. And how do you deal with that? And that's something I struggled. Probably I went through a dip in form 25, 26 at Spurs. Some will probably say a lot before then, but hey ho. And I had to deal with that criticism from your own fans, and rightly so, because if you don't perform, that happens. But I was never on social media. I don't know how it helps people writing awful things about you. You have to have thick skin. You have to be able to deal with that. And you know yourself when you're performing well. In any walk of life, any job, anything, no one likes to read or hear negative things about you personally. So you as a performer, you have to cross that white line. And if that's affecting your mindset, don't read it. And it's not easy now with the social media. It's everywhere. Now I'm a pundit. People will think I'm good. People think I'm terrible. I go out and I do what I can affect, and that's to be yourself. And as a player, it's different because you've got to perform. And as I say, I went through a period where I was really struggling with confidence, and I was out the team and all these kind of things. So social media, I've never been great for it, because it only takes one comment that's negative. That might be the one that stays in your mind, so it's, and opposition fans are always going to slaughter you anyway. So it makes no difference, but I'm not a big fan of it, Jay, but I understand why businesses and other people do have it. I am on social media because people who write bad things on a Saturday, why do I need to read them? The only people, when I played, I walked through my front door, and wife, kids, family, they're the only people that can help you. They're the ones that see your highs and lows. Fans can have the opinion. I was at the game against Aston Villa. Steve Cooper picked a team, and we'd all have picked another team. I said that to some of the lounges that I went in to speak to. He's the manager. He has to be able to deal with that and questions when people are answered and all these kind of things. But as a player, you have one thing to do, and that's when you cross that white line, perform, and do the best of your ability.
And obviously Steve Cooper did speak about in a press conference, saying that the people that were asking the questions, and obviously people watching, probably knew more about the whole situation and with other managers and whatever was going on in the club than he did, because he doesn't really have social media. It's just not something that he particularly does. And we've already seen a lot of players kind of deleting their social medias, their Twitters. Twitter particularly can be quite brutal. But obviously that's just one of the many pressures on a football player. And I kind of want to ask you about the daily commitments, because I don't think that people actually understand how much commitment it takes to be a football player in terms of the daily basis, the dieting that you have to do, the amount of work that you have to do exercise wise, and all the other things you have to do. So kind of, could you run me through like how it was daily for you?
Yeah, I love the daily work. I like to be fit, like to exercise. You're getting paid to go and run around and kick a ball and have some fun at the end of the day. Monday to Friday is work time, but you have a bit of fun while you're out there. You turn up, your daily base will be getting to the training ground. You have your breakfast, so everything's put on for you. You then go and probably do pre-act in the gym. Anything that is going to help you, you do. Everyone is different. My body's different to yours. I might have to work harder in the gym, whatever it takes to be the best. And pre-act, go out and train 2 hours. You might have a gym session after lunch, massage. I wasn't a big massage fan unless I'd been stiff or I'd had an injury or anything like that. I wasn't every day. Some players have a massage before training and after. But you do what's going to make you a better player. Look, when I started, there was more drink happening. Nowadays, lads, they're so fit. You look at the speed of the game now. It's gone. It's evolving all the time. The sports science, the amount of staff that are in the building. There's more finances, there's more opportunities, more jobs for people. So all these is great for the football club. But you do, when you go home, a lot of lads have chefs now. Because if you're single, you haven't got people to cook for you. You're eating the right food. If I'm eating the right food and you're eating the wrong, it gives me an advantage. All these little advantages that gives you a chance when you play against your opposition, you have to try and take it, because it can be such fine margins, the rewards, and the finances. And at the end of the day, it gives you the best life that you can hopefully have, not just now, but for the future. And that's what you've got to sacrifice to hopefully fulfill your potential and your dreams. But the matter I talked about earlier about players that go up and then go down. Can you be level all the time and you go through peaks and troughs? But you can't be climbing up a mountain and then fall off the mountain. But we see it with so many players. They're given too much too young. And how do you deal with that? It's all about, you get your rewards. And if you keep doing well, you'll get more rewards. So you do have to sacrifice. It's all about what you put in your body. I always say you are what you eat, and you look after yourself. Sleep. Anyone who had kids, sleep is not always the easiest, but I was someone who slept 12 hours a night. I'd have an afternoon sleep. All these kind of things help me try and look after your body and repair for training. And then when it comes to a Friday night, I was never got too nervous a Friday night. Wake up Saturday morning, the anxiousness turned on. You had your breakfast pre-match. And you went out there and hopefully you won on a Saturday afternoon, and it gives you a great Saturday night. Look, then you can go out and enjoy yourself if you're not playing for a week. We get that. You've got to have time to switch off, whether that be golf, going out with friends. But there's a time. You can't be 24/7, 365 days a year. You've got to have times where you switch off, and that's something as a player You win on a Saturday, you might have a midweek game. So your Saturday night's great. You come down Sunday and then you switch on to your next game. So it's probably only the 6 weeks where you go, and then the pressure starts. And because you just want to be a success. That was what I wanted to do. I always wanted to try and fulfill. And when you're playing a team sport, you never want to let anyone down. Because if I hadn't prepared, I'd done something wrong, don't believe I prepared in the right way, and I do something wrong in the game, I'm not just costing myself, I'm costing my whole team, the fans. All this comes into how you deal with those kind of things. And the highs and lows that football give you, you just don't get them. And do I miss it? No, I don't miss the lows on a Saturday night when I've had a bad game and you go in and know you're going to go in on a Monday and you're going to analyse a game and you know it's been your fault involved in a goal or things like that. But when you win, there's no better feeling on a Saturday night. You know you're going to have the best week of training. You can relax for a week, not too much pressure, and then it goes again. Because when you lose one, it builds to the next one. Then if you go on a momentum where you can't quite get a win, it can be tough.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I know that, you know, I mean, you do see it in football a lot now. Even you know, probably on Monday night, we probably saw a couple of times where a lad's done something wrong. And, you know, I think I saw Morgan Gibbs-White a couple of times, you know, and he looked frustrated with himself if he'd done something wrong. But he had a fantastic game. And I thought that, but, you know, you can really see it when someone's proper upset with themselves. And obviously, you know, it isn't just a game where, you know, 3 points and it's just like, it doesn't really mean anything. This is professional football where, you know, jobs are on the line. Obviously, we all know that Steve Cooper's job was recently on the line. So the pressure on them was huge. And obviously you were playing it when you went to Spurs. I think it was £8 million, I think you signed for. And you went with Andy Reid, didn't you, to Spurs? So,
Yeah, you always go, and you know at the time they were signing a lot of young players. Players were going out on loan, and I had a stress fracture at the time in my shin, so Reid hit the ground running. He was playing, and I had to wait till we went to Anfield to get my opportunity, and that probably came through 3 or 4 centre halves being injured. And I remember Martin Yule saying to me on the Friday, "Are you ready to play?" And I was like, "I think so." A young 21-year-old going to Anfield and being out for a long period. But someone else's misfortune was my fortune. We went there, played. We drew 2-2. I got man of the match, and I think I was probably surprised for Martin Yule how well I played and that I could play. And then I went on to play 6 games towards the end of that season. Then it was my next season where I think I played 58 out of 59 games or something like that, and that's what probably came and got the recognition. People were talking about me because when I went through the door, maybe they weren't expecting to get that a young player from a championship to go to challenging for Champions League and Europa League football. So all those kind of things, it's just getting the opportunity to go and express yourself in the Premier League. And for me, the best league in the world. It's definitely the best league in the world.
And the best and the most hardest, and also, you know, the most income. And you're probably going to say the best players as well in the world. I mean, you look at Man City now, and you've got Erling Haaland and, you know, Bernardo Silva, Gundogan. You know, all that. Just that whole team is just phenomenal. And to be honest, I don't really think there's a league that even comes close at this rate. To be honest, you know, this season especially.
Yeah, I mean, and I said that when we got promoted. You know, 23 years for the Forest fans. We were living the dream, and Steve Cooper, the job he'd done. But no one said the Premier League was going to be hard. And you go to places like Man City, 6-0. Many teams have got beat 6-0 there. And that's hard as a player. I went there with Spurs and we got beat 6-1. A team that I think we finished 6th or 7th that season. And that hurts as a player. And how do you bounce back? How do you deal with those disappointments? But you have to try and dust yourself down and go again, because they're an exceptional team. They are frightening, best team in Europe for me at this moment in time, and I think this year could be theirs for the Champions League, something that Pep and you know the club need and want. But it's great I look at Yates here, a kid that come up through the ranks, always wanting to learn, and I love seeing him now captaining the team when Woz doesn't play, walking out in the Premier League and getting himself the opportunities, and that's hard work and commitment, and going out and do the hard yards at Barrow, at Scunthorpe, Notts County, doing that, and now playing in the Premier League. He's a great lad, and he deserves everything he gets.
And well, yeah, exactly. And there's been a couple of players. Obviously, Brennan got Lincoln, and then so he went from League One to Championship to the Prem. And obviously, Yates, as you've just said, he's been to. I mean, how many leagues would that be? Would it be 2, 1?
Probably every league, I think.
Yeah.
He might have played. I think Barrow. I don't think they would have been. I think it was Barrow he went to. he could have been National League. But Jono was well going and doing it at Lincoln, scoring goals. Jono was one when Sabri was there. I probably thought he should have been in the first team before. But it was probably good that he went to Lincoln and scored goals, got that confidence and came back. And he's been brilliant for us. Probably broke in and then went to Rangers and been out on loan as well. Cashy coming back. Look, Nottingham Forest has produced young academy players for a long, long time. It's a fantastic football club, and you get the opportunities. Sometimes when you're in the Championship, yes, that may be why, because it's harder in the Premier League to sort of integrate them into the first team and give them opportunities and things like that, because there's more money, like we've seen that we've spent in the summer. That's not around in the Championship. You have to try and breed them from in the club, and that's been happening.
Yeah, and you've got to give credit. I mean, you see some of the youngsters playing for Forest now. Obviously, it was Yates and then Brennan, particularly those three. But we've seen lots throughout the years come through, and obviously some of them leave, and just good players overall, even players that haven't been to the academies, that Forest have brought in. But obviously, recruitment is something that was a bit of a worry this summer. Obviously, a lot of money spent, but they had to bring in a lot of players. There's no doubt about it. But 150 million odd pounds spent. I mean, do you think that's about the right amount of money that they had to spend to stay in the Premier League?
Well, I think we look at last year, what Steve done. I've always spoke so highly of Steve Cooper. I think he's a great manager, and I liked him at Swansea, what he did at England, and then with Liverpool in the younger ages. But when you think of Jed Spence, you think of Max Lowe, you think of James Gardner, you think of Zinkenagel, Keenan Davis, Tobias Figueiredo went out the door, Grabs went out the door. So there's 7 or 8 players, and I'm sure I've missed 1 or 2 as well along the way there. 7 or 8 players come in. So you've got to get 7 or 8 in to get to the same level. And then we're in the Premier League, which is the hardest league in the world, like I've said, in my opinion. So then you've got to improve. 22 and 23 players. Some of them 22 or 23 players have already gone out on loan, younger players that have come in. So it's not all first team players. I get that. The majority, yes, probably 18, 19, I think, probably. So Steve Cooper has to get them to gel, and it's tough. But you see it on the other hand, now I'm in the media, other clubs don't spend the money when they get to the Premier League. And I'm one of those guys. You can only spend what financially you can afford. If the worst was happening in relegation, but Mr. Marinakis has gone out and spent the money and give us a fighting chance to stay in the Premier League, because it's tough. It's hard. I'm looking now, we're second bottom. And I said at the time in the summer, if we could finish 17th, I'd sign, seal and deliver it, because it doesn't matter how much you spend your first year after so long out of the Premier League. It's tough. And it's always tough, we see, for every single year. It goes down to fine margins. You see Leeds last year staying up on the final day after, obviously, the year before having a really good season. It's challenging. 150 plus million. He spent a lot of money, but that's what he believed that he needed to spend to give us a chance in staying in the league. And everything's crossed, that's for sure, that Steve can, obviously, great that we stopped the disappointing runs that we're on. A massive game against Wolves at the weekend.
Huge game, and obviously it's going to be interesting to see what happens at that game. I'm still putting my bets on a draw, but I'm going to put this bet on this time. We both know why. But I wanted to speak, because obviously the Premier League is a very high spending league. Chelsea alone spent 250 million, and then obviously Tuchel was gone, which was a massive shock to many football neutrals and people that don't support Chelsea. But obviously, when you were playing football, kind of towards the kind of the 2010s, just after then, you saw players like Robin van Persie, I think, who signed for United for 30 million. If you could get a striker like him for 30 million now, I think everybody would be buying them. You know what I mean? And so obviously, inflation within football has been. I mean, it's changed incredibly. But I do want to know kind of the best team that you think you ever played against. In your time with I'll go with Spurs to start with, because obviously you saw the Fergie days and everybody that was there. So who would you say is the best team you played against?
Yeah, I mean, look, going back, you go back to Fergie time when there was Van Nistelrooy, Scholes, Giggs, played against those kind of players. But I'd probably look up at Chelsea with a team at the time when they had Petr Cech in goal, John Terry, you had Lampard, Drogba. You had Robin on one side, Joe Cole on another, Ashley Cole, Carvalho. They were a team for certainly a few years early on in my Spurs career that were dominating the Premier League, that were winning things. Then probably towards the end, Man City came. We're coming into it as much as when you had the Agueros, company. Manchester United have always been there. Whenever I went to Manchester United, I think I beat them once in all my Tottenham career. I think Christian Eriksen scored. So there's been the teams that have been in around it. Liverpool obviously went close when you had Sami Hyypiä and Steven Gerrard and Suarez, players of that ilk, and Harry Kewell. And for me, playing now, I sit back and talk about these times. I count myself lucky that I've played against them. In a way, I spoke earlier about sleepless nights. Many sleepless nights playing against them players. They were incredible. Alan Shearer and players of your younger age, probably watching in the Premier League. But I was there a lot younger, and it's challenging because you have to be your best week in, week out. But Drogba was an absolute handful. He could do everything. Both boxes. He would head it, bring it down physically strong, run channels. He had everything. And then you're talking about your Ronaldo's. Ronaldo was he still is an incredible talent to be doing it. Say one team, I think probably I go back to 21 when I was in the Premier League. Then probably finished when I was at Hull. United started, Chelsea in the middle, and then probably City to the end of it.
Wow! So you've seen some brilliant teams, and I remember when I was a kid watching. I think it was 2012 Champions League final against Bayern when it went down to penalties. And I remember sitting there in my grandma's living room watching that game, and you just look at some of those players and you think, wow, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The number nines that you used to have, and you don't really see a hell of a lot of number nines now. There used to be quite a lot back then. But obviously you've got players like Haaland now who basically, I mean, he's just unreal.
He's unreal. Zlatan was probably the one when I played against AC Milan in the Champions League. He was physical, strong, probably didn't run away like Haaland would, but when the ball came in the box, he was so strong. But we did win 1-0, so I did all right. I dropped that one in, mate.
You've got to, haven't you? I mean, that's a big flex, that is, because I must say, I mean, if Zlatan was running at me, I think I'd just let him go. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't even dare, try and stop him, because obviously he's quite an aggressive guy as well. I'm sure he's a really nice guy, but on the football pitch, completely different guy. You wouldn't even want to, step on his toe or whatever, because it'll just come and, give you one of them. So
yeah, well, that was an experience when we went to the San Siro, and I said I kept him quiet probably till time added on, and he pushed me over and he headed one in the back of the net. Thankfully, I got a free kick, but it was Clancy off it. It all went off that night. Gattuso headbutted Joe Jordan. It was, but for me going away in a Champions League knockout stages and getting a win there and then beating them back at White Hart Lane, then going to the Bernabeu and getting beat heavily by Real Madrid, and they're all experiences that now you look back on, unbelievable. At the time when you win, amazing emotions, but then you go on to your next one and you get beat 4-0 heavily at the Bernabeu. It can be hard to take.
Of course, difficult, but obviously, you've been to some of arguably the best stadiums in the world. Obviously, San Siro probably not going to be here past, I think, 2027 when they said they were going to get rid of it. So, a brilliant stadium in Italy, probably one of Italy's best, if not the best. And obviously the Bernabeu being historical as it is anyway. I want to kind of ask you about Gareth Bale, a player that I'm sure you most certainly got to see. Became the world's most expensive player in 2015, I think it was, when he left for 80 million to Real Madrid. What was he like seeing him as a player? Because it's like he had everything, the physicality, the speed,
Yeah, I think it was 13 when he left.
Was it 13?
Yeah, 13, I think it was. I mean, look, I played with Gaz for many years. I sat next to him in the training ground. He was a great lad. We played golf regularly, and he was just a normal lad. Just someone who looked after himself, kept himself to himself. He'd play golf, go home, have his mates in and around from Wales, and performing in the level he did. And it was a challenge for him early on in his Spurs career. He was picking up injuries. He had such a bad record whenever he played. We never seemed to win. But then once he got that off his back, wow. wow. I talk about playing with world-class players and winning your games on their own single-handedly. And that's what Gaz was. Gaz was someone that would score a goal in the 90th minute out of nothing. There's been nothing in the game, and bang, we win the game. We 1-0 down. He has a bit of magic out of absolutely nothing. It was like he was playing kids football in the Premier League. That's how good he was. He would run. I remember we were away at Norwich. I think we won 1-0, 85th minute. He picks a ball up at just outside our box. He runs past 2 Norwich players, try to bring him down. He rides a tackle. He gets through and slots it in, and you win the game 1-0. There's been nothing in the game. You think, how are you going to unlock the back door? And he just had that on many occasions. You see him in the Champions League, our first. And I believe that game at Inter Milan in the Champions League, it put him on the worldwide stage. I do believe that when he finished Maicon, we were 4 down at half time, and he ended up getting a hat trick. And we said the next morning in training, it was amazing how he can get beat 4-3, but how positive the training ground was the next morning, it was incredible, because we knew we'd beat Inter Milan back at White Hart Lane. We just knew we'd win because we give Gaz the ball, and he did. He just went from strength to strength. And everyone says the best player you've played with. And I always say Gaz. I was fortunate to play with so many world-class players, and sometimes it's said he's too easy world-class. But Gaz was incredible athlete, quick, strong. He could do it in, like I said, the 85th, 90th minute compared to minute 1. But he was definitely the best player I played with. And I was fortunate. I played with Luka Modric. I played with Rafa Devar, Robbie Keane, Berbatov, Edgar Davids. I mean, the list goes on. Ledley King. I mean, a player from where I started out as a young kid in Yorkshire, to play with these players, world-class superstars, icons of the game, was certainly now I finish was exciting, and to captain that team as well was mad, and still to see Luka Modric doing it at his age is exceptional, because I know how quick the game's gone. But all great characters and great lads.
Yeah, and obviously Luka Modric winning the Ballon d'Or as well, so you literally have played with the world's best player, in some respects, so, and I mean, I think he's 37 now, 36, and he's going into the World Cup. It's just phenomenal. So kind of talking of age then, obviously the average footballer probably retires at, what would you say, probably 34, 35?
I'm guessing so now. I think it might get a little bit younger unless you're willing to go down the leagues. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo is just a different level. One of the best players of my generation, and his goal scoring record, he's done it in every single league, and still be to doing it now. The physique he's got, the way he looks after himself, nothing short of ridiculous. It's incredible. But I think it will get younger because of the speed of the game. I really, really do.
Obviously, it's a massively intensive game, obviously, and so coming to retirement then, because I don't think any player really wants to think about it much. I'm sure they enjoy doing their job, and obviously for some footballers it's quite scary, especially those down the leagues as well, because we all know that there's some people that play now. I think it was Altrincham have only just gone full time. Some of those guys, they're plumbers on the side and stuff like that, and football isn't their main income. But even for Premier League footballers, it's quite scary of what's going to happen after football. So, the moment you retired, what was that like for you? And kind of, did you have a clear kind of path of what you wanted to do when you retired?
Yeah, I think you say there, certainly for the lower league players, it must be really hard, because you think, what's your next chapter in life going to be? Financially, have you got enough money? Probably not. You've got to go and do something else. Premier League players, that isn't a concern for them if they've looked after it, invested it well. But then boredom kicks in. What are you going to do? You've always had a structure, and I think that's something that we've been told. We get told where we are, what time, and don't be late. Simple as. That's it. So we've always had a structure, and you've been told it's not a 9 to 5 job, so it takes over. If you think you've got a day off and something goes wrong, you're in. That's just how it is. You can't plan in football. So for me to come back and finish my career in the way I did, it was perfect. To come back to the club that I love, and I had the opportunity to start there and finish there. Look, I went out in a disappointing way. One with COVID, no fans being there. and 2, not being able to help the team get back to the Premier League. However, we went on a great journey with Sabri, Lamucci, missing out in the playoffs when COVID kicked in 2020, and that game against Stoke, the last game, will be with me forever. To defeat that, talking failure, that's how we felt all summer. And the last year was hard for me. I never played, but I went into training. I tried to help the younger lads deal with where am I going now? I'm trying to say, because I wasn't playing, I always went in with a smile on my face to try and say, look, that was down to the manager. I wasn't involved, but I didn't sulk. Maybe because I was a lot older, I might not have conducted myself in that way if I'd have been 27 instead of 37. And the lads kept saying to me, how would you keep going at your age? Because I loved what I do, and I was trying to be professional. Don't be disrespectful to anyone else, because that's something I hate. If you're not in the team, don't mope around, don't sulk. So I went out in a sad way then, with no fans being there. But I'd have been in tears. I'd have been an emotional wreck walking around the City ground knowing I was going to finish and retire. So it was a sad way to go out, but I have no regrets. I was 37, probably too old and slow and past it. And you always know it's going to come, mate. That's football. That's life. I was going to have to go down a different journey. And thankfully, I've been lucky that Sky have given me the opportunity to go into media, which I love. It's great. Do every Saturday with Jeff, who is magnificent. We have a great bit of fun, and I've worked every Saturday for 20 years playing football. But now I just sit there instead of running around and watching other people play it. So I've been very fortunate and lucky to have that as a structure and work. And I watch an awful lot of football now. You have to, because you have to be up on everything. I still do some work for Spurs, so that's great, and be a taxi for my kids. So it's all good. And like I say, if you have a structure after, it certainly makes a difference. And I got to play golf this morning. I play golf quite often. So all these kind of things. But when you do finish, you do need to keep busy, and have a plan. So I always look to a Saturday to maybe doing work. If I'm working midweek, you're watching the games, you're doing your prep, all these kind of things. I talk about being prepared and looking after yourself as a player. You just have to do homework and watch games and know what you're going to be talking about on a Saturday.
So what is it? So given that, then obviously, I see you on Sky all the time, and I'm trying to think of the game that it was when there was a county game that was on. So we went to the Navigation, and the pub there weren't many people there, so I actually got to hear the TV, and all of a sudden I hear this voice, and I think, hold on a minute, I recognise that voice, and obviously you were there as well. How does it feel to be in the studio? Obviously, there's going to be millions of people watching you across the country, across the world, and you're talking about the sport that you love, because as much as it must be, fun, there is also the difficulty side. You're never going to win with anything that you say, because someone's always going to think, oh God, well, that's a load of rubbish. You know what I mean? That must be difficult. But
well, that happens every weekend, probably. No, I mean, look, you watch the game. Football's all about opinions. So my opinion can be different to yours. That's just how it is. I say what I see. Some people won't agree with me. I watched Forest at Everton. That was the game I had on Soccer Saturday, which was great. And we conceded a poor goal late on in the game. And you have to say what you see. That's football. I've been there. There's ways of criticising and analysing, getting points across, because at the end of the day, as a player, you always go out to try and do your best. Sometimes your best isn't good enough. And when you do make a mistake, you're going to be under a little bit of criticism. But yeah, I mean, last year I probably was still in the transition of being a player to a pundit. Now I'm just a pundit, I realise, and you've still got friends in the game. You're still watching lads that I played with. So that can be hard at times, but that's just me as a person. I think when you go on there, they always say, be yourself. That's all you can be. We're on air for 6 hours. It's not like a switch. You can't turn it off. And sometimes I get a little bit excited, but that's just who I am. And like I say, I really enjoy it. It's good fun.
And football is so much more than just a sport, because people always say to me, they'll say to me all the time, I'll come home and it'll be a Forest game this season. And I'm thinking, I don't get ridiculously upset, and I don't, proper go home and get proper upset. But, there's a couple of games where I've gone and I thought, oh God, what am I going to, and someone goes, oh, it's just a game, mate. I'm like, no, seriously.
You're brave saying that. Whoever said that is, I travel now, I get the train. quite a lot from Yorkshire down to London, and the fans that travel, and I get chatting to them now. It's very, very relaxed. They're very understanding. We've chatted where they've been, and everyone has their opinions. And like I say, not everyone agrees. It's your opinion. You try. People will say you're biased. I'm not biased. At the end of the day, I always want Forest to win. I want Spurs to win. I want Hull to win. The teams that I played for. But I'm not going to say something that I don't believe, and what I believe I'm saying is the truth. And sometimes that's where you go, look, I always want Forest to win, but Everton, I thought they went there, and Everton deserved to get a point, in my opinion, as much as it was a last-minute goal. But that's my opinion. Everyone sees it in a different way. We sit in the studio, and sometimes we have a debate that we don't all agree. But that's why we love it. People who go to the pubs before the games, they'll all disagree with the players that should be playing, and it's very much about opinions. Managers are no different with a group of players that are in the dressing room. He can only pick 11 players and so many subs. And his opinion and his decision, you've got to respect and go with it.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously, the pub aspect of it, I think, is the best part of it, because obviously, because it's very rare that I get to go before a game day now. But if I do, it's always looking at my dad thinking, right, what are you thinking about this? And he's looking at me thinking, what are you thinking about this? And we'll always talk about it. And we'll talk about it, leave it for a bit, and then after the game, it'll come out again. We'll be talking for hours about football. I mean, it could be about the one same thing. And Forest, we've got so much to talk about. And going back to that Aston Villa performance, I thought that, it's obviously you want the 3 points, right? I know that people were saying we dropped 2 points, but I thought that we were unlucky with a couple of chances. But I thought that it's an improvement. It's small steps, and I think that's really what we need.
Well, we had to stop the rot, as you can say, when you lose 5 on the bounce, and I think Steve set up like that with the team. I've always said he always wants to be very attacking. We've seen it in the Championship, playing with a front three of whoever it may be: Gibbs White, Lingard, Jesse, Awanya, Emmanuel Dennis, who I thought was brilliant the other night, led the line and worked his socks off. But I think when you've conceded as many goals as we have in recent weeks, you try and stop that. And defensively, I thought the lads were magnificent, putting the bodies in front of the ball, blocking the shots and getting up to the ball in places. I thought they were brilliant, back to front. But then you've got to sacrifice somewhere. If you're going to be attacking, you're going to leave spaces. So all these kind of things, and Steve he'll have been glad to get a point, but he'll have been disappointed that he couldn't win the game. But I thought, on reflection, it was a fair result. And when he saved Martinez after really save, I thought it was great that we went 1-0 up. Also, Dean Henderson didn't have many saves to make. Probably a fair result. And now they go to Wolves with some more positivity than what they probably went into the game after Leicester. So I wish them well. I wish Stephen, his staff and everyone well, because it's a great football club, and we've got the right man in charge.
Well, the last question then that I want to ask you, and I do believe we have got the right man in charge, and I'm glad that the club saw a long-term vision, in keeping Cooper. But I want to ask you, and this is me being genuine here, who your favourite pundit to work with is. I do want to know who your favourite is. I've got to ask it.
To work with, that's interesting, because obviously I do my soccer Saturdays every week, and I've done a few Super Sundays. I did last year, I worked with Roy, and Gary came in after when I was at Old Trafford for the Spurs Man United game. Listening on a Super Sunday, I love listening to Roy. I think he's so straight to the line, and working with him at Forest, I thought it was brilliant. I think him and Micah are hilarious together. Knowing Micah, I played with Micah at England and played against him. He's just a character. I think them two are magnificent together. I work with Merce on a weekly basis. Merce said he's been doing that for 14 or 15 years. I think he's really good. So I'd probably go Roy. As much as people say, at times I watch it and go, Roy, calm down. I was like that when he was a coach. I'd been out for 5 months and I came back, and he always used to take this session, and I was too busy chatting. He went, Dawes, any chance of you shutting up? And I was like, Roy, I've been out for 5 months. I'm just glad to be back playing. Like, he's a great guy. Look, you know what we got with him as a coach. He demands, and if you give him everything, you never had any problems with him. That's how he is, and I think you see him as a pundit. I think Gary and Cara on a Monday Night Football are great as well. So have I answered your question there or not? I'll say Roy then. I'll say Roy.
I thought that was brilliant, because I was just going to say I love the lineups. I think that they've got it spot on with Michael and Roy, and then Jamie and Cara. Obviously, Jamie and Cara, I don't think they didn't really get on in the playing career, did they? So it's quite interesting.
No,
to see.
probably not. No, in that era as well. I always watch Gary when he was down the tunnel, and he had clips the other day somewhere of awkward moments. He was playing against Phil at Everton. He didn't shake his hand, and that's how it seemed to be in our days. He was very straight faced. You see lads now, and rivals, they'll go away with England, they'll be friends, they'll follow each other on social media, and all these kind of things. That back in the day wasn't allowed. Now we've moved on to a different generation. It's a little bit more relaxed.
Well, I'm sure Roy will be very glad that you've said that he's your favourite there. So
no, he is. Everyone, I must admit, before I'd met Roy, I was petrified when he was coming in because but honestly, he used to tell stories, he used to chat, and then I worked with him, as I say, on a few occasions. He's great. He lets you have an opinion, and if you don't agree, he'll tell you. But that's what I say. It's only opinions. You can disagree. It doesn't mean either of you right. But you have to stay strong. Probably best not getting into an argument.
No, I would not dare have an argument with Roy Keane. Bear in mind, in Punditry days, looking at his playing days as well, it was when he did that charity match, and all the Liverpool fans were booing him, and obviously he was doing his Punditry, and Alfie Haaland was also, probably however many meters away from him, also doing it. And it's just like, just some incredible rivalries from the past, and he's some career that he's had, and he's now making a massive name for himself in Punditry as well. But yeah, it's been a pleasure to be able to talk to you today. I've absolutely loved it. And I was wondering who's he going to say for his favourite pundit, and I don't know. I thought it was going to be Micah, to be honest.
Mike is great. Mike is, and that's what I say. That's what I say about be yourself. Micah has done incredible. But he's himself, and that's all you can be. You can't try and kid anyone. Like I say, you're either really. You don't change from a dressing room to a pundit. It's just how it is.
And if you ever want advice on suits, apparently he's the man to go to as well.
Micah, yeah, he's slick. Micah, yeah, he always looks slick. Some rascal suits though as well.
I don't know if it was last night or the night before, where he had just like one that was just one straight colour all the way down. And I thought, wow, that's out there. That is.
Yeah, I love it though. Why not?
Why not? Well, exactly. Why not? I mean, I don't know if I'd have the guts to do it on TV. I'd be. But yeah, as I say, it's been brilliant to be able to talk, to you about Forest and Tottenham and everyone you've played for, all the games you've played and the people you've played with. Be good to have you on again at some point if you're ever interested, 100%. And I'm looking forward to seeing you on the TV again soon, and probably having a debate with my dad, thinking, is Dawson? What do you reckon, Dad? What do you reckon?
I might go with an out there suit this weekend then, just for you.
Are you really? Oh, go on then.
Playing Navy.
Oh, is that off? Keeping it cash? No, I like it. As long as you're not doing those half and half suits I saw Mike do. I thought, wow, that's interesting. But yeah, good stuff. Brilliant. Absolutely.
Well, I wish you luck, Jay. Hopefully you can get a few more people on.
Fingers crossed. We've got. Actually, I don't want to give people too many hints. I love doing it really, but I say I don't want to do it. But I'll give you one hint, and this is it. This football player, very, very well respected. I'm pretty sure I've seen him in a Shipston shirt, and he played for Nottingham Forest and Liverpool. Probably giving away too much there, but I'll leave it at that. That's someone that we are working on at the moment. But it's been a pleasure, as I say, to interview one of my absolute childhood heroes, Michael Dawson, who I kind of channeled at football training yesterday as a centre-back. So absolutely loved it. So, Michael, thank you very much. And we'll speak to you very soon. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Hi, it's Jay here. Thank you for taking time to listen to that podcast. That one was with Michael Dawson, as I'm sure you're very now aware. I really appreciate it if you drop a like, comment and subscribe, and do share it to any of your friends as well, any of your fellow Forest. Maybe if you have any Tottenham friends, then share it to them if you have to. And if you know anybody from Hull, share it to them as well. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Don't forget, we will be back on, this is Monday that you're seeing this, so we will be back on Thursday evening for another stream. So thank you very much for listening. As I say, like, comment and subscribe, and let me know any guests that you want to see come on the podcast down below. Thank you all very much, everybody. Thank you.